Hello and good morning from Zurich here in Switzerland. Now today we are allegedly heading down to Bologna in Italy. I say allegedly as our train's been cancelled and they're only going as far as the border. So yeah, it's going to be one of them days, don't really know what's happening. But yeah, just about to head to Zurich Central Station and try to head to Bologna, I guess.
Bahnhof G, Hauptbahnhof.
So, after a short ride across the city centre on one of Zurich's rather convenient trams, we're dropped off right outside the main entrance at Zurich Hauptbahnhof, or Zurich Central Station. Now, this is supposed to be one of the most spectacular railway stations in Europe, but sadly the facade is currently hidden behind scaffolding while renovation works take place. Anyway, my first port of call today will be the SBB ticket office, given that I don't even have a train to catch as it stands, so let's head there just now. While there may be a lot of construction work going on here at the moment, we can see on the inside at least that this is a beautiful structure. I must say the concourse here is very wide and spacious. Anyway, time to get this cancellation sorted out. The service that I was supposed to be travelling on was a direct SBB high-speed service, that's the Swiss national operator, through to Bologna. Now, despite this, it was actually Italy's national operator, FS Trenitalia, that sold me my ticket. Anyway, the member of SBB staff that we spoke to seemed just as perplexed as we were, and after speaking to a supervisor, they printed us out a new itinerary. We would now be taking 3 trains instead of 1. The first service we'll be taking is the very same SBB high-speed train that was supposed to be taking us all the way to Italy. However, a few people got in touch with me on Twitter to say that this had been cut back, apparently due to low demand. We'll then alight at Lugano, which is close to the border with Italy, before then catching a Tilo regional service to Milano Centrale. Once we arrive in Milan, we've then got to go to the Trenitalia ticket office to get a reservation on a high-speed service to take us on the last little leg to Bologna. While a little bit inconvenient, sounds simple enough, right? With that, let's head to platform 7 where our train will soon be departing from. The first of 3 trains we'll be catching today is the 0833 Eurocity 307 service, allegedly originally bound for Bologna, but now only going as far as Chiasso. So, our first train today is this practically brand spanking new 250km/h capable Stadler Giruno train set. Today's service is formed of an impressive 22 coaches, being made up of 2 11-car units coupled together. Each unit has capacity for over 400 passengers across 2 classes of travel. Now, we'll be travelling in second class today, but as we board, how about we take a quick look at what first class has to offer? Seating here is in a 2+1 configuration, with these almost throne looking and rather spacious seats being offered. I think I may just have to check this out someday. Separating first and second class is this rather nice looking restaurant car. Now, I didn't end up dining here today, but I'll be sure to leave a link to the full menu in the description below. Beyond this is second class. I must say I like that the accessible seating is immediately either side of the dining car for their respective classes. A small but I'm sure highly appreciated feature for those who require it. This train also features level boarding, much like what you'll find on the Stadler FLIRT. The rest of second class is made up of 2+2 seating, configured in the usual mix of Base of 4 and airline style seating. There's an abundance of luggage storage throughout the train, and I believe that these larger stacks can also be used for storing skiing equipment, which is a nice addition. Bicycle spaces can also be found throughout the train. I must say I'm also a big fan of the rather smart and modern interior, although this is pretty much a given on recently built Stadler trains. And good work on ensuring that all of the seats align with the windows. This is often overlooked, particularly on more modern trains, and is fast becoming a pet peeve of mine, but no such issues here. Anyway, without further ado, let's take a seat. Legroom ain't too bad for second class, even for 6'1" or 185cm me. All of the usual suspects are here, including a seat back pocket and a tray table. Also, I'm a big fan of the finish on the backs of the seats. The faux wood looks superb in my opinion. Each pair of seats has access to both a Swiss or Italian style plug socket, as well as the standard 2-pin Type-C plug socket that's found throughout much of Europe. As for the seats themselves, very comfortable, nice and soft and well shaped for a good all-round experience. The seats do also recline a little with the lever that controls this hidden underneath them. This one took me a moment or two to figure out. And lastly, as you would have probably expected, coat hooks, reading lights and window blinds can also be found. Overall, really impressed. What a well designed and ergonomic seat. Anyway, before we set off, let's just take a quick look at the route we'll be following for the first leg of the trip. Our route will see us heading south and via the Gotthard base tunnel, which is also where we'll achieve our top speed of around 200 km an hour, before continuing on to Lugano. Scheduled travel time for this leg is 1 hour and 57 minutes. And we depart Zurich on time at 8:33 AM. As we make our way out of Zurich, I just want to take a moment to say a massive thank you to my patrons and channel members for their continued support. If you want to join them in supporting the channel, all while getting ad-free early access to videos, then you can do so for as little as $1 per month. You'll find the relevant links in the description below. It really doesn't take long at all for the scenery to start to pick up as we make our way along Lake Zurich. As I'm sure you can imagine, there are going to be a lot of spectacular sights en route as we make our way across the Alps and towards Italy. Our first stop today is in the town of Zug. While its name is derived from the right to fish in local middle-age fishing vocabulary, rather fittingly Zug also means train in modern-day German. Now don't worry, I'm not going to show you the toilets on all of the trains today, but these ones are a bit different from what you'd usually find on a train. Firstly, you've got the usual bog-standard toilets that you'd expect to find on pretty much any train. They were spotlessly clean and working as intended, so nothing to fault here. These trains also offer urinals, which is something that I've never come across on a train in Europe before. In fact, the only other places I've come across these on a train is on the Japanese Shinkansen and in the Republic of Korea. Lastly, I didn't film my normal test, but this train is Wi-Fi enabled, and the speed seemed pretty good. Anyway, we're now running alongside the rather impressive looking Lake Zug. I'll be quiet and just let you enjoy the views for a bit. Up next, we stop in the town of Goldau. The town has sadly been known for falling victim of a number of landslides throughout history, perhaps the most notable of these being that of September 1806, which pretty much destroyed the entire town, as well as a number of nearby villages. We now find ourselves running alongside one of the smaller lakes that litter our route today, in the form of Lake Lauwerts. Not long later, we find ourselves alongside Switzerland's fourth largest lake, Lake Lucerne, as we close in on the Gotthard base tunnel. So, the Gotthard base tunnel. You've heard me mention it a few times in the video so far. At an impressive 58.09 kilometers, or 35.47 miles long, this is the world's longest railway tunnel. The tunnel took nearly 17 years to complete, with construction starting in 1999 and it opening to traffic in 2016. At its deepest point, the tunnel sits 2,450 metres, or 8,038 feet below the surface, meaning that it's also the deepest railway tunnel in the world. Now, despite how long it is, it'll only take us around 20 minutes to traverse its full length. Not too long after exiting the tunnel, we arrive at our next stop of Bellinzona. This is our first stop in Switzerland's only predominantly Italian-speaking canton or region of Ticino. Around a quarter of an hour later, we arrive in Lugano, which, as I mentioned earlier, is where we'll have our first change of train. Now, I don't know about you, but I can certainly think of worse places to have an unexpected stop off. Just visible on the other side of the lake is Campagna d'Italia, which is an exclave of Italy which is surrounded entirely by Swiss territory. Anyway, it's soon time to head back into the station to catch our next train, which will take us across the border into Italy and through to Milan.
Well, it's still a bit chilly, but it's not biting.
Our next train is another Stadler unit. This time, it's an ever-popular Stadler FLIRT, which are commonly found on regional, and even some intercity routes throughout much of Europe. This leg of the trip is operated by Tilo, which is a joint venture between the Swiss national operator, SBB, and Italian regional operator, Trenitalia. Both first and second class seating are offered on this train, although much like the Belgian train we took a look at last week, there's not a right lot of difference between the two. Much like the train that took us down from Zurich, this train features level boarding, and of course, there are wheelchair spaces, and a disabled toilet provided too. As for the seats, well, they're arranged almost entirely in bays of 4. For a regional train though, legroom is actually pretty good. A small drinks table and litter bin can be found at each set of seats. We've taken a bit of a hit in terms of comfort though. These seats are practically rock hard and really not that great. Anyway, before we set off, let's just briefly take a look at the route we'll be taking for the second leg of the trip. This leg will see us continuing generally south and across the border into Italy. We'll then briefly run alongside Lake Como before heading on down through Lombardy and to Milano Centrale. Scheduled travel time down to Milan is 1 hour and 22 minutes. And we leave lovely Lugano behind on time at 11:02.
Next stop, Chiasso. This train continues as Regio Express 80, Tilo to Como San Giovanni, Seregno, Milan. Border crossing permitted only with valid travel documents, and no merchandise or currency requiring declaration.
So, as the announcement just said, we are now pulling into Chiasso, which will be our final stop in Switzerland. While Switzerland isn't part of the European Union, it is a member of the Schengen zone, as is Italy, so only very minimal border checks are carried out, although these will take place once we cross into Italy. Now, I had hoped to show you Como San Giovanni, which was our first stop in Italy, but quite a lot of police officers were waiting for the train on the platform to carry out those border checks, so I thought better of it. Soon, the landscape flattens out, and the mountains become distant, as we make our final little canter into Milan. We eventually pull into Milan's spectacular Centrale station at around 12:30. Without a shadow of a doubt, this is one of Europe's greatest grand railway termini. The architecture here is simply stunning. Anyway, as much as I'd like to marvel at this structure all day, I need to head to the Trenitalia ticket office to try and sort out a high-speed connection for the last leg to Bologna. Our final destination should now be barely an hour away. Ticket in hand, it's time to head back up to the concourse to catch our train. Now, I don't know what was going on here at Milano Centrale on the day I filmed this, but it just seemed that everywhere we went in the station, there was someone to yell instructions at you. Honestly, the staff here at the station were coming across as really quite unpleasant. So, our train to Bologna. Do you think they put us on a high-speed train, as they said they would in Zurich? Did they heck? Instead of a speedy 1-hour connection, we get to spend the next 3 hours or so on this regional train that'll be calling here, there and everywhere. Now, while I will say that these rock units do look kinda cool, it ain't quite what I had in mind. Anyway, I shall grit my teeth and bear it, as I guess at least it's a means to an end for this trip. These units are actually pretty new, having only entered service in 2019. They were built by Hitachi and have a top speed of 160 kilometers an hour. I will say that, for a regional train at least, the inside is really quite nice. While quite bright, the interior does look pretty futuristic. By the way, don't be fooled by all of the empty seats. We boarded this train about half an hour before it was due to depart, and it was rammed full for most of the trip. Once again, most seats are arranged in bays of 4, and again, legroom was rather good. Both regular and USB plug sockets are provided, which is nice, and not always a given on a regional train. And the seats, while perhaps a bit narrow, were pretty comfortable. Anyway, for one last time, let's take a look at where this leg of the trip will see us going. We'll head more or less southeast, via Parma and on to Bologna. Scheduled travel time is 2 hours and 50 minutes. And we depart Milan on time at 1:20.
La violazione di tale obbligo comporta l'intervento delle forze dell'ordine con l'interruzione del servizio nella prima stazione.
Honestly, once out of Milan, I didn't film a right lot on this leg of the trip, and I'd say I probably slept for about half of the journey to Bologna. This train made around 15 stops between Milan and Bologna, the most notable of which was probably Parma, about halfway into the leg, where we had an extended stop for a crew change. Finally, we find ourselves on the approach to Bologna Centrale, and at the end of what has been a right palaver. Had it just been the SBB Stadler Giruno that we travelled on, I think this journey would have been great. However, having to keep changing trains was a bit of an inconvenience, and not to mention the slogfest between Milan and Bologna. That said though, some of the scenery we've witnessed today has been fantastic, and hey, where would be the fun in travelling if things didn't go wrong once in a while? Now, obviously, I just travelled on my original ticket for the direct service, which cost me €45, as I mentioned earlier, booking through Trenitalia. For a direct, fairly long distance international train, I guess that isn't too bad. However, given that I had to take 2 fairly long regional trains as part of my trip, it suddenly doesn't seem all that great. So, a day that certainly didn't go to plan, but do let me know your thoughts on the trip, and perhaps even some of your experiences with delays and cancellations, in the comments below. We eventually pull into our final destination of Bologna Centrale at around 4:10, 1 hour and 35 minutes after our original booked arrival time of 25 to 3. Anyway, that's all from me this week. I do hope you enjoyed the video. If you're new to the channel, then why not hit that subscribe button and notification bell, as I publish new trip reports every Friday. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next Friday.